Blake Snell is officially a Dodger and talked about it. Juan Soto reportedly has a big deal offer from the Dodgers, among other teams. And could Farhan Zaidi be back? Let's talk about it. Let's get locked on Dodgers.
You are Locked On Dodgers, your daily Los Angeles Dodgers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yo, Dodger fans. Welcome to Locked On Dodgers. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the number one local sports daily podcast network. Locked On, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Get going with football and get a big return on FanDuel because new customers can place a $5 bet and get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win that first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. This is the daily podcast covering the World Series champion Los Angeles Dodgers, bringing you the smart fans' perspective on our boys in blue. You can find us wherever you find podcasts and on YouTube. All you got to do is search for Locked On Dodgers. You can become an everydayer by listening or watching every day, and you can make that easier by subscribing and get notified when our episodes are ready or when we're going live on YouTube like we are here on Tuesday night. This is your first time listening or watching. Welcome. I'm Vince Samperio. That's Jeff Snider. And Jeff and I are lifelong Dodger fans. We've been covering the team a few different capacities for 10 years now. We've been doing a Dodger podcast for 9 years. We've been doing this Dodger podcast going into our 7th year. So there's a lot of Dodger talk, a lot of Dodger fandom, a lot of, Dodger moments and memories and everything else. And now we get to share all those with you as we do Locked On Dodgers every Monday through Friday. And we get to talk more Dodgers today. No hard news in the sense of any signings or anything like that. But we'll start with Blake Snell, who had his introductory press conference at Dodger Stadium. We got to see a lot of videos from the different reporters there of what the stadium renovations are looking like. And it's pretty intense. And we got to look at Blake Snell for the first time in a Dodger uniform with Scott Boras at his side. Scott Boras, Andrew Friedman at the same table. So all is good in Dodger world.
Yeah, and Scott Boras didn't get to say anything, at least at the press conference. Had plenty to say after, so that was nice. Yeah, it was fun to see. It's always fun to see an elite ball player put on a Dodger uniform for the first time. Snell is wearing number 7. He would have preferred number 4, but Uncle Duke already has that number forever with the Dodgers, and so he went with number 7, and I suspect the Dodgers are perfectly content to have number 7 be tied to a different left-handed pitcher for the next several years and, wash a certain taste out of their mouth. All in all, it was you can only get so much insight from press conferences like this, but I thought that Snell was relatively open. The fact that when he was asked specifically about Game 6 of the 2020 World Series, he didn't say, I don't want to talk about it or anything like that, which you kind of might have expected. He was open about it, and he, said I needed to pitch better so that Cash would have trusted me more to leave me in. And the other one, when they asked about the deferred money, and he gave kind of the honest answer, which is, he didn't put in these words, but basically, once you're beyond a certain amount, it doesn't really matter when you get the money. I'm more concerned about playing baseball. And that's what he said. He said, I'm more concerned about the baseball than the money, which is, one of the ways that baseball players are different than the rest of us is that they can afford to say, I'm only getting $20 million per year right up front, and the rest of it is deferred. We would all feel that way if we were getting $20 million. But yeah, it's like, I was pleasantly surprised that he was a little bit more forthcoming than maybe some press conferences are.
Yeah, with the press conferences, you never know what you're going to get. But, Blake Snell, I almost got what you used to call him.
We can't do that anymore. He's one of us now, Vince.
Blake Snell, and I didn't even call him that. Blake Snell, like we talked about his personality and how he was. And, he has a good personality. He is one of those guys, on social media and doing the streaming and the gaming and all that type of stuff. And, we got to see a little bit of that here in the sense of, he speaks well. He said the right things, and it didn't seem fake. Like it does. It seems genuine. Obviously, talking to can look that way in the opening press conference. But I just think this is who he is, and he wants to be here because the Dodgers are. He said, "Where else would you want to be?" Type deal, and a lot of really nice things about the Dodgers and pitching at Dodger Stadium, and going for championships and all that type of stuff. And it's exactly kind of what we've been talking about the entire offseason so far, and about free agency is that, yeah, why wouldn't you want to come here if you're a player? Like, obviously there's some players where, realistically the Dodgers aren't going to give you the contract you want, and you can get that from another team. But if you can get a contract in a similar realm as other teams and you can play for the Dodgers, there's really not a lot of reasons to not want to play with the Dodgers in Los Angeles, which was another factor that Blake Snell mentioned of him and his, I don't know, wife, I think, or girlfriend, I'm not sure exactly what they are, but wanting to live in Los Angeles at some point. And, there's, I'm biased, but there's not very many places better to live.
Yeah, it's especially as a baseball player, like it is the place to be. And he recognized that, he talked about how much more fun it is to have the big three hitting for you instead of against you. He even talked it was kind of funny when David Vassay asked a question during the press conference. When he introduced himself, Snell kind of laughed. So somebody has already briefed him on Vassay.
But I think they're already, because Vassay was always trying to give inside info on Snell. I think they kind of know each other.
Anyway, so he's familiar with Vassay, and he talked to him afterwards, and they talked specifically about Clayton Kershaw. And it was kind of funny because technically Clayton Kershaw isn't on the Dodgers right now, but Snell said he wants his locker next to Kershaw's. So that another indication that Kershaw is likely to be a Dodger. If Kershaw saying he was going to be a Dodger wasn't enough for you, when you look at everything all together, there's even a question specifically about how much does Shohei Ohtani play into your decision, and Snell had to regroup for a minute and give because the honest answer is probably, well, I didn't want to pitch to him anymore, but it was one of the reporters on the Ohtani beat. They reminded me of the winter meetings in 2015 or 16, and I was there, and in the managerial scrum around the Rangers manager at the time, what was his name? Jeff Bannister, was that his name? And somebody asked him about some high school near Dallas and how much did that play into something. And he's just like, what are you talking about? Like that was kind of what it was like. Obviously Ohtani is a big deal for the Dodgers, but everybody's got their beat and has to ask their specific questions. But when you are a superstar pitcher, to not have to face Ohtani and Betts and Freeman and whoever else the Dodgers have is always a good thing. I'm excited for one of the takeaways I had was that Snell doesn't see. He said he was asked if he's friendly with any of the Dodgers, and he said he knows some of the pitchers. Didn't say specifically who, although later he did mention Kershaw to Vassay. He said he doesn't know many of the hitters because he's not friendly with opposing hitters because he needs to keep that edge. I suspect one of my takeaways was I suspect that Mookie Betts is probably texting with Snell right now. They're planning to get together because Snell talked about, well, when we get spring training, we'll start building that. And I don't think this Dodgers core is going to let things wait until spring training to start building those relationships.
Yeah, at least for the guys that already live in LA. So the other thing Friedman talked about, just like contracts and the deferred money, and he said it's just a lever, that they've done deals, that they're always looking for different things in negotiations. Sometimes they line up straightforward, sometimes less straightforward. Deferrals helps that. He said we have no hard and fast rule. We just like to get deals done. I like this, Andrew Friedman, that just gets deals done.
Yeah, and Friedman also said that he specifically doesn't want to make any trades in July because trade deadline, he said before, he hates trading at the trade deadline because prices are high. And so he is trying to build a team so that in such a way that come July, there won't be any holes that they need to fill. And I like that approach.
Yeah, one of those potential holes is Juan Soto, or could be filled by Juan Soto. And the Dodgers reportedly have an offer in, along with some other teams, maybe semantics. Either way, $600 million, Juan Soto potentially offered by the Dodgers. We'll talk about it. So keep it locked on, Dodgers. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Keep the NFL season going and get in on the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. If you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view the live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. If you watch Monday Night Football, there was a lot of offense and a lot of different things. And, Jameis Winston passing attempts, he had over 50 of them. If you had thought before the game, like, hey, let's check the line on Jameis Winston passing attempts, it probably hit the over, and you could have done that. Boom, $5, you would have got 150 bonus bets. And, there's a lot more different ways to get in on that. So go check out the FanDuel app today. Get in on the action and get the sports book. That is America's #1 sports book, and you get $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Go to FanDuel.com to join today. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. I want to thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen or your last listen, any listen of the day. We appreciate you if you're listening to Locked On Dodgers with the live show and with the podcast and everything else. There's a lot of different ways to listen to us. So YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts, all that good stuff, and you can check out Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Sports Los Angeles. Those are two 24/7 streaming channels on YouTube, bringing the biggest news from the sports world and the LA sports world, brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network. And also check out Locked On MLB with our pal Sully, covering the rest of the league as the season goes on. And I'm sure he will have a strong opinion on the golden at-bat rule that we talked about in yesterday's episode. So I'm sure that'll be a good listen for him. But let's talk about Juan Soto now. There was some reporting. A lot of people are still trying to get in on the Juan Soto reporting, and it seems like a lot of people are trying to get lucky by tweeting things out and then hoping that they end up becoming true. But either way, we have some reporting from Rosenthal and the rest of the people at The Athletic that says, and Scott Boras said those teams are starting to get eliminated. Doesn't believe a decision is imminent. Then some of the reports say it could be done by the winter meetings, could be done before the winter meetings, that it's down to a few teams now, and that all those teams that are still in it have made offers over $600 million. Jeff, does that surprise you? Because the Dodgers were one of those teams named.
Well, it depends. I can't tell if Ken Rosenthal's article is deliberately vague or vague because he has other skills that are better than his writing skills. Let me read you this paragraph. It says, the clubs publicly known to be most serious about Soto are the New York Mets, New York Yankees, Boston Red Sox, Toronto Blue Jays, and Los Angeles Dodgers. The two people briefed on the negotiations said that all remaining contenders have made offers above $600 million. Those two sentences, despite being in the same paragraph, aren't necessarily related to each other. We don't know, basically, if the Dodgers didn't offer Juan Soto at least $600 million, then they know that they've been eliminated, at least according to these sources. We don't know if all five of those teams made offers of at least $600 million. We don't know what the average, how many years, any of that, those things. But, this article wants us to take away from it that the Dodgers offered him $600 million. And I don't know if that's true because it is poorly written. And like I said, either deliberately or accidentally. So it wouldn't shock me if the Dodgers offered him $600 million, if, especially now that they've done a deferred money deal with Scott Boras, if they might be willing to go even higher than other teams if some of the money was deferred, just like they did with Ohtani. Everybody says $700 million, even though Ohtani's deal was really a $460 million deal. $700 million is the number gets thrown out there because that's the number after the deferrals. And so, it wouldn't shock me if the Dodgers have offered something really, really high if there are deferrals involved. But yeah, I have a hard time picturing them being one of the teams that's offered at least $600 million. But again, it wouldn't shock me.
Yeah, 600 million. I could see them offering it, but obviously it just kind of depends. If it's 600 million with 250 or more million deferred, then yeah, that sounds like a Dodger contract. If it's 600 million straight up, we've talked a lot about this, and the Dodgers can afford whatever they want to do. If they want to sign Juan Soto to a 10-year, $600 million deal, they could do that. And, it would cost more money in luxury tax, but it would still be something they could afford and, wouldn't be an issue. And obviously would make them, very, 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 very strong contenders to repeat in 2025. But yeah, the Dodgers are there. All the other reports that we've seen so far that from more credible sources have kind of said the Dodgers are there, kind of just waiting around. If he doesn't get the deals he likes with other teams, or if his mind changes on what exactly he wants, then the Dodgers are there to strike. And I do think that's ultimately what it is, because, like I said, the Dodgers, while they do need an outfielder, they, could very easily pivot and sign Teoscar Hernandez, and then they wouldn't necessarily need an outfielder. They could use two outfielders, and that would still fit on the roster as it's currently constructed. So there's different ways to think about it. But yeah, I mean, there's no reason for us to go back and forth on the, should they sign Juan Soto or not. I think the matter of if they've offered him this much is, more of the conversation we're having. And yeah, I do think that I think it's more of like Scott Boras says, hey, the bare minimum is 600 million. Are you in? And Andrew Friedman said, yeah, we're still in at that point. And then, if it got beyond that point, then they would have different negotiations as to what it is. And if they didn't like that deal, then they would go to the next team. And the next team makes a bigger offer.
Yeah. And we also heard a week or two ago that the Dodgers actually made several offers to Soto, several different contract structures, and told him, we're fine with any of these, accept any one of these. And that maybe would suggest that they are willing to go up to the 600 million, because I doubt they'd put the effort into making 4 different proposals or whatever if they knew that none of them were going to be accepted. I think they're trying to show the possibilities, even if it's just a mind game of say, well, I have these 8 offers out here, but if 4 of them are from the Dodgers, maybe that gives them a 50-50 chance of getting him, but yeah, all of these free agency rumors are always guessing at best, because, even this, we've got 2 people briefed on the negotiations. We don't know who those people are. We don't know who they were briefed by. We don't know, we don't know anything about those people. And so we have anonymous sources, and sometimes anonymous sources have things absolutely right. But a lot of times anonymous sources have their own ulterior motives, and there's just so many unknowns that all we can do is kind of guess based on past behavior. But the Dodgers' recent past has been embrace it, go get these guys. And I'm all about that version of the Dodgers.
Yeah. So we shall see the winter meetings start Sunday in Dallas. It'd be nice to get it wrapped up before the weekend, regardless of where he goes, just to get it wrapped up and kind of kickstart everything else. The pitching market seems to be one that's going to be moving. We've seen Corbin Burns linked to a few different teams now. The Giants today, again, re-up there. And, we haven't heard much about Max Fried, but it doesn't seem like Juan Soto suitors would really be held up by going after pitching. So hopefully the rest of the market starts heating up. But, we'll be here regardless of what happens. The good thing is, not similar to last year. Like if the Dodgers didn't get Shohei Ohtani last year, it would have been pretty disappointing. And also, the Dodgers would have had to do some other things in order to get the roster where they needed it to be. This year, if the Dodgers don't land Juan Soto, well, you still have pretty much the entire core of a team that just won the World Series, and you added Blake Snell, who was Cy Young the season before. So it's much different than it was last year, where last year you were coming off back-to-back first-round exits by division opponents. And then if you didn't land Shohei Ohtani, you were not screwed, but you were in a weird spot.
Yeah, and kind of touching back on the press conference, Andrew Friedman was asked about his mindset building the team after winning the World Series, and he said, uh, "Our goal every offseason is to put together a team that's going to win the World Series." And he said it's hard to win; it's even harder to repeat. And I think the Dodgers definitely understand that if they if you're not moving forward, you're moving backwards because guys are getting older, some guys are leaving, and so yeah, you have to be aggressive going out there, and that's why I've never really been able to accept that the Dodgers aren't in on Juan Soto because he's the best hitter available, and the Dodgers are trying to build the best team possible, and they have a couple holes in the outfield, so Soto makes a ton of sense for the Dodgers. And so it makes sense to me that they're in on him, whether they sign him or not. I think their interest is very, very real.
Yeah. So in the front office, a guy that used to be with the Dodgers, Farhan Zaidi, and then went to the Giants and didn't do too much over there other than one division title. He could be coming back to the Dodgers. So we'll talk about that. Make sure to keep it locked on Dodgers. I want to thank you for being an everydayer if you are one. If you're not an everydayer, you can become one by listening or watching every day. If you're not ready for that type of commitment, then you can just add one episode to your docket every week. And, if you like the way that feels, you can add another episode and then you can add another episode. And once you're up to 5 episodes a week, that means you're an everydayer and we appreciate you just a little bit more than everyone else. We have to be honest here. You can also go beyond the podcast, come a Locked On Dodgers Insider at joinsubtext.com/LockedOnDodgers. You can get text directly from us with any news, thoughts, rumors, things of that nature. As the rumor mill starts to heat up, I'm sure you'll be getting a lot more text here in the next few weeks. So make sure to go to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnDodgers. All right, Jeff. So Farhan Zaidi, we know he used to be with the Dodgers, used to be the GM, and then he went and took over baseball operations with the Giants. And I'm sure in our episode about that, we talked about how we don't love it, but maybe I don't remember exactly what we said. I should have went back and looked. But either way, it was one kind of fluky season where the Giants ended up winning 107 games and taking out the Dodgers from the NL West title, but then losing to the Dodgers in 5 games in the playoffs. And then other than that, it was a whole lot of mediocrity and not great stuff. And now he might be coming back to the Dodgers. So maybe he was a secret agent the whole time.
Yeah, maybe. And he did win more NL West championships than any GM other than Andrew Friedman in the last decade. So he's got that going for him. I think Farhan Zaidi is a very smart guy. I think that the Giants, we kind of talk about when, Andrew Friedman, before he came to the Dodgers, he was with the Rays. He was excellent at putting together a competitive team on a bootstrap budget. And basically coming to the Dodgers they called it Moneyball with money. That, hey, do all that smart stuff, but also we're going to give you all the money you need. And the Dodgers, that's what Friedman's continued to do. And he did it with Zaidi as his general manager. He's done it with Brandon Gomes as general manager. Not just the big flashy signings, but the smart acquisitions, the Evan Phillips, the Ryan Brazier, the Max Muncy, all those different guys it's not just money. They are really good at building a team, but I do think the money helps a lot. And I think that's where maybe Zaidi, I think he is smart on the fringes, but maybe didn't have the money to put them over the hump. Didn't have the money from ownership. The Giants have plenty of money. The Giants make a lot of money, but they didn't have the payroll flexibility that Dodgers ownership has given to Andrew Friedman. And so it is kind of, I don't think that the Giants' lack of success under Zaidi was Zaidi's fault. I think they've taken a step backwards by their new approach, going back to the old regime. Some of the guys who were there before, having Buster Posey running things, and maybe Buster Posey will surprise us, but it seems like it was specifically a move away from the way the Dodgers do things, and when really teams probably ought to be leaning in more to how the Dodgers do things. And it'll be interesting if Zaidi comes back, because I assume at some point he was technically Brandon Gomes' boss, and whatever role he comes back in, probably Brandon Gomes will be his boss, because I assume it'll be something under the general manager. But the Dodgers have a history under the Andrew Friedman regime of stockpiling talent in the front office, and occasionally losing those guys like Zaidi and Alex Anthopoulos and different guys to be GMs elsewhere. But the Dodgers really do believe in having as many smart people making their decisions as possible, because you can never have too many smart people.
Yeah. If he does come back, I got to imagine it's more like a assistant to the president type deal rather than assistant GM or just some type of whatever. He'll probably have a specific role that they're looking for him to do. So when it comes to Zaidi, ultimately, if he does come back to the Dodgers, we probably won't ever really know what his direct contribution would be unless they somehow outwardly state it. But, at the very least, we do know that when he was around, and the Dodgers have continued to do it, but, and he did it with the Giants too, is, like you said, finding guys on the margins, finding guys on the fringes. Lamont Wade Jr. was a really good guy for them in 2021 when they had that crazy season, and he still had some sustained success. Different guys like that. They tried, from all we heard, they tried to get big name free agents over there in San Francisco, and they did get one in Carlos Correa, and then didn't work out. They didn't get Bryce Harper. They didn't get other guys like that. But again, we don't know how. I'm not tapped into the world of how deep they were, if ownership gave them blank checks or if ownership said this is all you can offer, and that's why they kept losing out on top tier talent. But anyways, it's all comes down to the fact that we're not sitting here saying poor Giants, and if Zaidi comes back, the more the merrier when it comes to front office and guys that can identify talent and guys that can be part of player development and all that type of stuff.
Yeah, and identifying talent is one thing, but also being able to attract it is another thing. And what the Dodgers have done is build an organization, like we talked about many times, that the Dodgers are very good at everything basically that a baseball organization can do. And that's why you have guys like Blake Snell just saying things like it was a no-brainer to come sign with the Dodgers. And, whether it's, even when you're talking about minor leaguers, I'm looking for a minor league contract. Well, what organization is going to help me get where I need to get? It's the Dodgers. I'm a fringe big leaguer who, or a fringe reliever. Going to the Dodgers, best thing that happened to your career. And when you look at even the big name free agents, having that organization that is good at everything is attractive to them, because we know that the Giants, or we've heard it reported, the Giants offered more money to Aaron Judge than what the Yankees ended up paying him. And he chose the Yankees. And the Giants were willing to offer Shohei Ohtani what the Dodgers gave him. We don't know what their offer to Yamamoto was, but we know that Ohtani and Yamamoto were their top two targets last offseason, and both of them ended up with the Dodgers. I don't know that that's Farhan Zaidi's fault. It's the fact that, it's the whole organization that's what a player is looking at. When Shohei Ohtani looked and said, where do I want to play? The Dodgers organization, the sustained commitment to winning is a huge deal. And there's only so much that a GM can overcome when you're going up against that.
Yeah. So we'll see what ends up happening with Zaidi. If he does come back, he'll be welcomed with open arms. And if he doesn't, we wish him the best wherever he goes, because it probably won't be in the NL West again. So there's not much else. Like I said, there's been no new signings on Tuesday. There's no timetable for anything else as far as we know. Winter meetings start up Sunday. So everyone keeps saying that this winter meetings is going to be better than it was last year, when nothing really happened. 2 years ago, there was a lot of stuff that happened in the winter meetings. So let's hope that it's more like 2 years ago. But you got anything else before we get out, Jeff?
Just one other question that I wish that Blake Snell had been asked in his press conference was specifically about the fact that his last two teams have been NL West teams and the atmosphere he's expecting at Petco Park and whatever the Giant Stadium is called these days. Because that, I think that's going to be something I'm looking forward to seeing, because, like Padre fans are just going to be ruthless on Snell. And I think he's going to feed off that. He seems to really, really like that pressure and that, intensity. So I'm excited to see Padre fans' reaction and Snell's reaction to that. Whenever, I haven't looked at the schedule, I don't know when the Dodgers play in San Diego the first time next year, but I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, I mean, he said as much on the pressure. He said, he likes that the Dodgers always have the pressure, and he likes that. And that we can only hope that that ends up remaining true. And but again, so far, nothing but good vibes from Blake Snell. There's been, he did a live session with the Dodgers social media team. He talked with Kirsten. He talked with SA. He talked in the press conference. So there's a lot out there.
Well, next, Locked On Dodgers. Our DMs are open, Blake.
Yeah, there you go. Let's get them on. So that's going to do it for today's episode. Thank y'all for listening. Thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen of the day or your last listen. Anytime you can listen to Locked On Dodgers, you are appreciated on this end. You can find us where we get podcasts and on YouTube. You can subscribe to get notified when our episodes are ready or when we're going live on YouTube. You can go beyond the podcast, come on Locked On Dodgers Insider at giantsubtext.com/Locked On Dodgers. Get text directly from us with any news, updates, thoughts, anything Dodger related, or if you just want to have a Dodger chat, sometimes that can go on there about different things. So make sure to go check that out. Check out Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Sports Los Angeles, 2 24/7 streaming channels from the Locked On Podcast Network, bringing you the biggest news and stories from the sports world and the LA sports world. You can find us on social media, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Locked On Dodgers. Jeff's on Twitter at Snider. I'm at Vincent91. You can DM us any questions or comments. You can also send those via email, lockedondodgers@gmail.com, or via voicemail text at 323-863-5625. We're here every weekday morning, and we hope you'll be here with us. When you get in your car, if you're at home, touch my device, play podcast, Locked On Dodgers. And remember, you don't have to agree. You just have to listen. Have a good one.
We'll talk to you tomorrow.